history of the New York City trip actually goes back probably close to 15 years. And it started out as a workshop sort of a thing where agents would come, look at the students, and that's all. And then go away, and if they wanted to talk to a student, they would. I think we had our first person selected for the New Jersey Shakespeare Festival out of that New York trip about 15 years ago. And then the history of it progressed, so we had this New York trip, but the head of Disney Studios, the head of the casting of Disney Studios, informed us one time that it just wasn't that productive for anybody except one or two schools that might come in and do that. So we developed the program that we now have, where we go every other year and we take students and put them in front of agents, and those agents, casting directors and so forth, actually work with the students. At least that's the intention.
So the idea behind the New York City trip is to give students a chance to be in the city and kind of immersed in the culture there and see some of the shows, but also because we have these 3 days of workshops for them to get to ask questions of and present their work, present their songs and audition pieces, as well as portfolios to professionals who can give them feedback on it and give them thoughts on how to better prepare themselves for future professional auditions and opportunities and work schedules. And it's just a chance to kind of introduce our students to the professional industry and world of New York City specifically. But we also hope that even if they don't end up moving to New York City after college, it's a good introduction to the industry itself, nationally, internationally.
The impact of this particular trip is really immeasurable. So much of what is learned here within the department is reinforced through feedback and the opportunity to audition, but it also makes it real. While we're here, it's very academic, and there's a teaching focus. But taking what we know here and putting it into a professional setting helps them make that transition to see themselves as professionals and not as students. And I feel that's really critical for them to be successful.
So I would definitely say I was benefited in many different ways, but one of the best ways was learning how to build relationships in a short amount of time. I felt like with each workshop that I got to do with new and different people, it was a new challenge to let them know that I was somebody that they could work with and that they can trust and that I'm willing to work hard. And so since I didn't have the benefit of people already knowing who I was and knowing how my work ethic, I felt like I had to prove that in all those auditions, which is what you would have to do in the real world. So I think that was the most beneficial thing for me, was just auditioning for people that I've never auditioned in front of before.
We woke up pretty early and we all got together in this studio, and we met people from casting directors to actual directors to performers like Q and her husband, and we got the chance to workshop and ask questions and ask about writing music and ask about what it is to be in a Broadway show or what it is to be a casting director and what they look for and who are you trying to get in contact with, why are you auditioning in the first place. And those were some of the things that we learned and kind of experienced in a workshop. After that, we could go out in the afternoon and go see Broadway shows and all that cool jazz, for sure.
So typically for any given day that we're there, we have workshops planned from as early as about 9 a.m. and going all the way until about 6 p.m. Workshops would typically last about 2 hours each, and it would be a chance to get to meet and get to know the professional that we were talking with, the guest artist. We also call them master classes because each person who is teaching them is giving us their expertise in whatever area that is. We work with, of course, actors, directors, but also casting directors, talent agents, choreographers, anybody in the industry. This last time we got the benefit of someone who's kind of a professional MC who does a lot of cabaret style shows and was able to help train our students a lot on preparing them for their own cabaret performance that same night at a club in New York City. So it's a wide variety of folks, and we have about 2 hours with each of them approximately. Not only do the students get to have a Q&A with them generally and find out more information about them, get to hear their life story in the world of theater, but also for most of the guest artists, students had the chance to audition for them, to perform a song or a monologue or both, and get feedback on their work. And that was, I think, pretty invaluable for students.
To prepare for post-graduation life, a step. It's no longer in the imagination of the student. They actually have gone there, they've experienced things. No, it won't be like that when they get there, but it will be a step to that. So I think that it probably has a positive impact. Whether you go to New York or whether they go to LA or Chicago or whatever, it's the breaking away from that many years of education into the real world. And I think you get a taste of that real world when you go there.
Yeah, in a sense, I think it did help me get ready to move to New York. I feel in the sense of money and finances, as well as maybe where to live and who to go to, with friends being there. It was interesting, like seeing where they live and where they decided to all accumulate together towards and everything. So, yeah.
So I had the opportunity to go on the New York trip both my sophomore and my senior year, and I'm really thankful for that because I felt like I got a different experience each time. My sophomore year was definitely a lot of getting to know the city in general and trying to navigate by myself, as well as learning what it would be like to be in audition and workshop settings with people that I don't know really well, like I did at Wesleyan. And so by the time it came around for my senior year, since I'd already been there once, I felt like I had a better grasp on the city, so I could really focus on the workshops that I was doing and the auditions and building connections with the people I was working with, as well as reigniting some of my connections that are already out in New York right now. This time, since I had a little better grasp of what the city was like, I felt like I was really able to focus my craft more.
Some fun memories of this trip is watching students grow through their audition. One that I enjoyed this particular trip was Adriana Cook, with working with Sherry Sanders, who teaches about pop rock auditions. Adriana came and she has a very sweet way of presenting music. And Sherry challenged her to loosen up, and the ability to change her presentation and how she handled her movement to reflect the music was, I think, surprising to her as it was to everybody else who got to watch her. Another tip that I might have for those that are contemplating this, taking part in these trips, is go and watch. Watch everybody, because you can learn from the feedback that each person is given. You can observe fantastic growth within the student and go enjoy. But don't limit your experience to that. Go taste the city.